So in 2001, you became the host of America's Funniest Home Videos.
I did.
So how did that come about? What happened to Bob Saget?
He's with Jimmy Hoffa now. No, Bob's a friend. That came about. I was hosting the New England Emmy Awards, just a dinner, not televised, but occasionally I'm invited to go back to do that. And these are, people that I, in some cases, worked with, and it's always great to go back when I can. And in this particular night, I was doing much as what I'm doing here now and loved doing on Breakfast Time and on Dancing, ad-libbing, just reacting, just being, what's happening now? Where can we play? What's happening? That's the real joy of it. Vin DeBona, who is the executive producer and co-owner of the show with ABC, was there getting a Lifetime Achievement Award because he is from Boston TV as well. It was at WBZ before I was. And as he says, started his career shoveling shit for Gold Rush on the Boomtown show with the late, great Rex Traylor. So he was getting this award. I was having a ball, having a typical night out hosting something. And Vin's mother, Jean, who is this, I think she may be 90 now, going on 18. I mean, this woman was born young and has stayed young her whole life. She's great. And great judge of character, because she leaned over to Vin and said, "You should hire him." And at that point, America's Funniest Videos, after 8 years with Bob and a couple of years with Daisy Fuentes and John Fugelsang, was really into the specials arena now. It wasn't on every week. It was on a number of times a year, hosted by whoever was the sitcom guy of the time for ABC. And they were thinking of bringing it back as a summer series, I think. And so Vin told me that, and he said, "Would you be interested in hosting it?" I thought, it's a great franchise, and I said, yeah, it would have to be different in that I'm not Bob. Bob's a comedian. I'm a broadcaster. So I wouldn't, would have to go through, as I called it, a desagitization process. But sure. And so we shot one without an audience. It was a one-shot special that rated pretty well, and then ABC picked up 13, and then they picked up a back 9, and then they started picking it up for 22 with extra episodes. Now, when I signed the first contract, which I think was a 5-year, it might have been a 6-year, I don't recall, but Vin, I don't know if he knows this or not, but his own lawyer told my agent, Babette, because I was concerned about signing something that long. I don't know what I have against being gainfully employed, but I always get, I don't know. And Vin's own lawyer said, "Don't worry, it's not going to last that long." So that was 2001, and here we are in 2013. And tomorrow, as we tape this, tomorrow I'll be back in the studio taping another $100,000 edition of the show. You can watch in reruns my hair color change from brown. It used to be, believe it or not, chestnut brown, and then it starts getting salt and pepper. Now the salt's winning, but happily it's staying. I used to say to my late grandmother, when I'd go back to Haverhill and take her out to lunch, and she would look up at me and she'd say, "I can't believe my grandson has gray hair." And I would say to her after I said, "Well, I can't believe you're now 3'8", but there you go." I'd say, as long as it's staying, I don't mind if it's graying. So, but you can watch that. You can watch that process happen.
For the very few people who haven't seen it, describe the premise of
the show. It's
a
clip. It's a very basic clip show. It's the version that we do. America's Funniest Videos is a family show. It casts as wide a net as possible. It's designed so you can watch it with your kids. There are sort of niche versions of that show now. Daniel Tosh does one. There are others that target more the frat boy mentality, and so they can be more irreverent and graphic and such. But the AFV show is silly. It's really designed more for kids, but everybody can enjoy it. So it's a punny, silly, wonderful hour of clips of clips of your neighbors and people falling down or doing cute animal things or for anybody who's been on YouTube locked in their room for days. It's like that condensed to an hour. It used to be a half hour when Bob did it, with a very talented group of people behind the scenes who find ways to endlessly make it appealing and new and certainly I've been amazed at its longevity and I call it the annuity. That we don't refer to it AFE at our house. We call it the annuity.
Tell us a little bit about the desagatization of it. What's the difference between when you do it and when Bob did it?
Well, and Bob, I think we've talked about it too, because I actually finally twisted his arm and pressured him into coming in and worked him for a year and a half until he came on our 20th season. I wanted to do a show with him because I thought that you can't celebrate the success of this show without honoring Bob being the first and really in a lot of ways to many people still the best known host. But Bob's a comedian. Bob would want to get a laugh too, and almost sometimes, and he's admitted he'd host it different now, but he would almost compete with the videos. And the analogy I used was like Martin and Lewis. I don't think I'm as suave as Dean Martin, but I'm the Dean Martin to the Jerry Lewis of the clips. They're the manic, silly thing. I'm the, if I get a laugh every so often, good, but I'm there to be the straight man. And that was a role that I think as a broadcaster I could more comfortably settle into than Bob could as a comedian, who he had a different approach. Now, having said that, when he did the show, there was nothing like it on television, and it did the kind of numbers that a show like Dancing with the Stars does now, up to 20 million people. So my versions never achieved that kind of level of viewership, but it's been a good workhorse for ABC and has very passionate fan base, particularly kids, which I love.
Why do you think it's so successful? Why do people watch it?
Well, I think it's because it's a guaranteed laugh. It's like the range of people that I've had. I talk about it being a kid show, and I don't mean that as a pejorative at all, because it does appeal to. I've had Tina Fey come up to me and talk. I've had Muhammad Ali on a plane years ago say to me, he was sitting across from me on a flight to New York, and I wanted to say something because he's Muhammad Ali, and he was there with his wife, and finally about half hour out at landing, I finally summoned the courage to turn to him, and I'm sure Muhammad Ali, from all of his years being a global superstar, knows when someone's about to talk to him. So I turned, and he was already looking at me, and he had his fists up, and he was smiling, and he said, "I really like your show." And that was just great. And he was drawing a cartoon of a fighter jet to help with his Parkinson's at that time. And this is back again 2002 or it was early in my time doing it. And so I noticed he was working on this to help him just with his Parkinson's. And he signed it and gave it to me. And I have that at the house in New Hampshire. And a few years later, when Layla Ali was on Dancing with the Stars, I told her this story and how he did that. And he gave me the picture. She said, "Was it the sailing ship or the fighter jet?" I said, "What?" She said, "Always does one or the other." I said, "It was the fighter jet." But the range of people, Dolly Parton at Dancing with the Stars, I get to the studio, and somebody from the staff goes, "Have you seen Dolly yet?" Because she was going to perform on our Tuesday show. I said, "No, why?" "She wants to see you." I'd never met her. This is, pretty cool. I walk onto the stage. She sees me. She says, "Tom, I just love it when they put your head on other people's videos." And so there's a universal, people want to laugh. Unlike an episodic show where you have to kind of commit to a storyline, this is like a comedy buffet. You can come in the middle, stay for a minute, watch the whole hour, but there's going to be something that I think will make your day a little easier. And that's wonderful, I think, to be part of that.
You mentioned executive producer Vin DeBona. Can you talk a little bit about working with him?
Vin is he's really one of the only people. If you've ever met Vin, he is one of the best put together people I've ever met. He can make patterns that no other human being could pull off work together. I really stripes with spots and sparkles and star. He just and the little pocket thing. And I come in for rehearsals. I'm in my jeans and a hoodie and a sweat. He's a very stylish guy. In a lot of ways, he's a throwback to another time in TV. But he has a very clear sense of what the show is, who the audience is, and he has been able to He's been able to keep a franchise that, given the advent of YouTube, should have gone away a long time ago, on the air with an audience still. We still pull in about 7 million people a week, particularly when football goes away. I remember sitting at an event next to Fred Silverman a few years ago, and Fred goes, "Yeah, once football's gone, your demo numbers pop right up." Well, actually, you're right, Fred. I was kind of impressed he was keeping watch. But Vin is and he's sort of the lord and manor of all he surveys there. I mean, everyone's very deferential to him there. Some of the people have worked only for him in the business. I mean, he engenders that kind of loyalty from his staff. But it's just a really a sweet guy.
You mentioned the advent of YouTube. How did that change the show, or did it?
I don't know. I mean, for me, it didn't change anything that I do with it. It may have changed things in the production of it, or in trying to negotiate the use of clips, or it may have swayed people from, instead of sending it to AFE, they put it on YouTube. But I think it's in some ways the advances in technology have helped the show. Now, if you on your Android or iPhone, there's an app, you can take the video and upload it to the show right away, and we get, I think, most of the video submissions now via mobile phones and things, where years ago it was those old clunky VHS tapes. So it's I would have thought it would have impacted it more than it has.
Yeah. Who picks the final videos that air?
That's a Vin call ultimately. I share with viewers a sort of an arched eyebrow about the 3 that are nominated at the end sometimes, because it isn't always the funniest video. And I've asked them, I said, how come the funnier ones than the ones that, well, sometimes they've aired before on previous years, or they didn't get they couldn't get the people to be there on the same day that the thing was going to air, or it's aired somewhere else. It's come, but they pick them.
Is there ever a time, like doing the voiceover, to go with the video that you think something's going to be funny, it doesn't work, so you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's interestingly, that's where one aspect of why the show's very different for me to host than a live show, because we'll have videos that we think are going to go into a show, and they don't play that well for the studio audience when we're taping, so they're edited out, so they never get to the one that's on the air. And so I have to be careful about referring back to something, which I'd normally do, and do sometimes, but not as often as I used to, because it creates editing problems. If I see a clip and I make some comment about it, but it didn't play well, so they have to cut it out, then suddenly my reference doesn't make sense. So I have to be a bit more generic than typically I would be in a live setting. But they're very careful. They gauge it when it's playing on stage. They're always watching and listening and saying, okay, well, let's make. Or if conversely, if a clip gets a really big response, they might pull it from that show and make it a nominee in another show. So it can go both ways.
In 2006, you became a producer on the show. Did your duties change?
They didn't really at all, and it's. Vin told me, you're a producer on the show now, and it was really it was really just sort of a generous gesture on his part. And I think anybody in the business knows that sometimes it's laughable. You look at the credits of a show. There was one show. What was it? I was watching it recently, and it was The Office, which is as we tape this into its final few episodes in its final. Everybody's a producer now on the show. They run the cast credit and then the producer credit, and everybody's a producer, because if you're on a show long enough, it's just sort of a way of acknowledging your contribution. And Vin's been very generous. Now I'm a senior producer on the show. Yeah. Now I'm doing Dick Van Dyke's Old Man.
Love it. So you mentioned that there's a great staff that keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
They find a way. They find ways to rethink how to approach something. They've involved me in a number of bits over the years. One was a slow-mo gizmo where I was next to a monitor and we'd play at regular speed, but find things in it that you might not have seen. And I had almost like weather forecasters where I could draw on it and all that, and we'd go back and slow it down. They did one bit for a while that I've asked them to stop because it started to haunt my dreams, of putting my head, the one that Dolly Parton loves, of putting my head on other people's videos. And all that involved for me was to sit on a stool and make a bunch of faces for about 20 minutes, and they would digitize all those faces and then just slap them on some other people's videos. And so that it was weird, and it certainly had its fan base, but it was a way of almost playing the same videos but in a fresh way. Now, more typically now, I'll do a contest every show where it's like head, gut, or groin, or pick the real video, or who's gonna fall, or where I'll have two contestants and we'll play a video, stop it, and they have to guess what the outcome is. So they just find ways. They do name that sound, where you don't even see the video, you just hear it. You got to figure out what it is making that noise. So they're just very clever about that, about how do you repackage these things to keep the show fresh. So,
what's the most popular video, the submissions you get?
Well, I think everybody has their own. Some people like watching someone get hit in the crotch, which is, we kind of build a franchise on that. I like the animal and the kid videos most. I just think that the innocence of children sometimes is really endearing in unpredictable ways. So I don't know. I think everybody would have a slightly different answer as to what they like best.
Is there one kind that you get submitted more often than others?
I don't know. Because I'm not part of that aspect of the show. I really have the easiest job on the staff. They do all the work. They screen all the videos. They pick the ones for the show. I do the voiceovers on one day, and more recently, I did the voiceovers for the show we're shooting tomorrow in Connecticut. They found a studio. I went like almost 10 minutes from my house, went into the studio. They were synced up with the studio in L.A., did the voiceovers, went home. Within 2 hours, I had done a show. And then I go in tomorrow and I'll shoot the stage part of it, and we'll be done an hour show in about an hour and a half. So, you kids watching, be a TV host with a really talented crew, and life is a breeze.
Can you tell when you get submissions? You said you don't see the submissions, but can you tell when they're staged?
I think so. Now some of them are staged because we ask them to do it. We do a thing called Assignment America, which has been a mainstay of the show, and which I believe Bob Iger came up with. Assignment America. Vin told me that was Iger's inspiration to do a segment like that years ago, and so we'll ask you to do it. Whether it's blow up a snowman or give your friend a wet willy or whatever. It's all cultured stuff, mind you. It's all highbrow. But so those are staged. And as far as somebody getting hit in the, I can tell you as a guy with a crotch, if I know someone's going to hit it, I'm going to tense up. I'm going to somehow telegraph. I'm going to protect myself. So you tend to see it a little bit. There's a tell. I guess in poker you'd call it a tell.
Do you have a favorite video from the show?
I got a couple. I've mentioned this before, but they're great. There's this tandem skydiving grandma who has this ear-to-ear grin, and unfortunately, the wind current takes her false teeth out as she's falling. There's a golden retriever who thinks his own Jimmy leg is trying to steal the bone, and he's eating the bone, and his back leg is shaking, and he turns and snarls at his back leg until it stops, and he goes back to the bone, and it starts again. So those are a couple favorites.
Why do you think the show is so evergreen and has such a long shelf life?
I think people like to laugh. I think that's it. Again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that it's tough. Life can be tough. And if you can turn on something and you know that for whatever reason it's going to tickle your funny bone when you're having a day where you can't find your funny bone, that's going to be, it's popular all over the world. A friend of mine told me he saw me in a TV monitor in the back of a cab in Vietnam. We had a family, it was like the assault of the blonde people, a family of Norwegians come up to my wife and I when we were on a tour bus in Bath, England, who loved the show. They watch it in Norway. When we were shooting in Epcot and Disney World in Morocco, some of the people who work there, because they all come from their home countries, and they said, "You're on twice a day, and you speak fluent Arabic." Oh, that's good to know. So everybody wants to laugh. I really think it's that basic.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier in the interview about The View.
Yeah.
So we know that you've done several appearances as a guest host. Talk about
just one as a guest host.
Just one as a guest host. Yeah. So what's it like being the male voice at the table?
I would never do it again. I love being a guest. I love them dearly, all of them. Barbara, Bill, Getty, Whoopi, Joy, everybody. They know Sherry and Elizabeth. But the one time I filled in for Whoopi when she was out, I within 3 days would want to kill all of them. They never shut up. They never shut up. They talk over each other, and you can't keep anything. Will you just shut up? So I'd never do it again. I'll be a guest anytime because I love you, but man, wow.
Another show where you were surrounded by women was the Miss America pageant.
Yes. Interestingly, that was another show I thought, I'm not going to do this. My daughters, both of them, Jessie and Samantha, talked me into doing it. Because I'm married to a very liberated woman. I mean, she was one of the first producer and directors in New Hampshire Public Television. She went on to be a documentary person in Boston at BZ, and just not a pageant person. Although they'll call it a scholarship program, yeah. But anyway, and I just thought, and this isn't what I wanted my daughters to aspire to necessarily, unless they wanted it. I mean, in which case, we would have supported them. So Babette called me, said they'd like you to host Miss America. Andrea Wong was the head of reality programming at ABC, and I'm very fond of her, and she was a big advocate of mine for dancing. So I said no until my daughter said, Dad, we get it. I mean, they were in like middle school and early high school at that point, I think, and they said, you love live TV. We're fine with the whole pageant thing. Just have fun. Go. They wouldn't ask you unless they thought you'd have fun. And it turns out I did have a good time. Why they never invited me back is that I was on a talk show after Miss America, and it went well. It went very well, and I really enjoyed the people. But I told this story during the dress rehearsal for Miss America. I was backstage looking over some notes, and all of a sudden, I am getting this really great shoulder and neck massage. And I turned around, and it was one of the Southern State contestants. And it was really, she's good. And I said, that's a great shoulder massage. And she said, and if I win, a full body massage. So I told that story on a talk show, and interestingly, was never invited back to host Miss America. And Andrea Wong said to me the next year, she said, Yeah, they didn't want you back. I did. What happened? I told her that story, and she went, okay. Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Well, but it was too good not to tell, right?
Yeah. Do you think that pageants are still relevant?
No. I think they're relevant in what sense?
Just in the sense of the current state of
I think
women in the world.
Are they ever? Look, it's entertainment. Is a dance competition relevant? No, it's entertainment. We're not here necessarily to be, is a clip show relevant to America's fun? No, but it's fun. As long as you take it for what it is. I mean, when you see somebody in a bikini talking about world hunger and world peace, come on. But it's fun. Brooke and Chris do a great job hosting it now, and the ratings were good. It exists as an entertainment piece. But that's true of Dancing with the Stars. I mean, we're not curing cancer here, boys and girls. We're having fun,
So let's move on to Dancing with the Stars.
Yes. My second most favorite thing I've ever done on television.
How did you get the job?
I got a phone call again from Babette, who said, ABC wants you to do a summer show, and you're going to do it. And I said, well, oh, really? What is it? She said, it's live, and you love live. I said, well, that's true, but what is it? She said, it's a big hit in England. I said, great, what is it? She said, you got to promise me before you answer, I'm going to send you a DVD of the British show. You have to watch it, and then you can answer, all right? I said, yeah, okay, fine. What is it? She said, it's a celebrity ballroom show. I went, oh, for God's sake. Why don't you just put a bullet in my head and cast me in an infomercial, one before the other, doesn't matter. And we'll call it a career. And she said, you promised. I said, all right, fine. So they send the DVD, they overnight the DVD of the show called Strictly Come Dancing. And I don't think I was 15 minutes into it. And I thought, this could be fun. I loved the throwback to the old style variety shows. I loved the way they integrated the reality element, people out of their comfort zone who really have nothing to gain. It's not like the singing competitions where they're hoping to get a contract and have a career. These people aren't hoping to become professional ballroom dancers after. It had a sense of humor about itself. Bruce Forsyth, who's the host of the British show, is sort of the Regis I think of him as the Regis of England, because he's had a long career in game and talk and such, and just has a very vaudevillian almost approach. And I thought this could be fun, and it's a summer show. It's 6 weeks, And then it just took off. And it just, not immediately, but it ultimately felt like such a good fit. The first show, the first season, there was a lot of scripted material that didn't feel right to me. I delivered it. I tried to, but I'm doing a live show, and I've got a joke locked and loaded, and it has nothing to do necessarily with what. So we were into the second season a bit, and I said, I just want to get rid of it, and it was no disrespect intended to a very good friend of mine who's a writer on the show, but it just wasn't working for me. And so they, thankfully, the producers trusted me enough to let me go and react. And that's when, for me, that and when I did a dance on a result show, a quick step, which I still have the Charlie Chaplin hat from over here on the mantle. That made me fully understand, the dancing made me fully understand what they went through, which is my real goal, to feel it. Charitably, that dance would have gotten a 4 or 5, I think, from the judges. But it did what I wanted it to do. And getting rid of the scripted material as much as possible did what I wanted to do. It made me present in the show, honestly reactive to, whether with sarcasm or snarkiness or affection. and enthusiasm to what was happening. And once that happened, about midway through season 2, then I felt like I was connected to it, and it's been a joy.
Were you at all involved in the development at the early stages of the show?
No, because it was pretty much taking the show from England and transporting it. The look of it, the difference is that we have commercials and they don't on the BBC. But Len and Bruno came over from the British show. They do both, and still to this day. And the look and everything else was very much just already done for us in England.
And was it ever a consideration not to do it live? Why is it live?
I don't think there was a consideration not to do it live. Why? I almost don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm glad they do it live. I'm glad that they regard that as I do. If it wasn't live, I don't know that I'd want to do it, in all honesty. I mean, it would still be a good show, but everything that I derive from it, it's why videos is harder for me to do than dancing. Doing the tape show, as much as I love the people, it's a harder show for me to do. It's a little bit outside of my humor zone in terms of the tone of it, but it's also taped. Whereas dancing, I know that the reaction, there's no way they're going to edit this. Because it always smarts a little bit when you see something edited. I'll go into a mix on the video show and I'll see that they took something out. And it's always for a good reason. It's always, but it still isn't. Son of a bitch. I mean, it makes sense in the context. I did a guest shot on a sitcom that Scott Baio's doing called See Dad Run. And a lot of my stuff hit the cutting room floor. Now, if I was cutting it, I would have cut the stuff too, because it didn't factor into the main storyline. It was it was incidental, and they were 5 minutes over, so I would have cut it too. But it's still, you still go. So if it were on tape, it wouldn't be as much fun. It wouldn't be the second most exciting thing I've done on TV.
And how much does the audience voting component of it play into the show? It's
50-50. I mean, in terms of the ultimate decision making. I mean, I get a kick out every season on the show. We'll get complaints that, well, it's not a dance show, it's a popularity contest. So, well, yeah, you're right. It is partly that. It's partly a dance show, and the popularity is informed by the dance. You might be a fan of this person to start, but then that person does this, and you vote for them. I said, you want a pure dance show, PBS is always there for you. But it does it's a 50-50 split.
And when the show first started, did you ever get the feeling that it was going to be as successful as it is now?
No, not well. It came out of the gate pretty strong in the summer, so I thought it was really going to be bigger than we expected. Then they did a one-off dance-off because Kelly Monaco won, and some people thought John O'Hurley should have won, and I thought they all should have gotten over themselves, but we did a one-off special, partly to keep the franchise alive in people's minds, because we did 6 weeks that wrapped in early July, and we weren't going to come back with a second season until the following February of 2006. So this was a nice way to just keep people thinking of the show. But ultimately, it was, I said it happened in an alternate timeline, to go back to my sci-fi geek cred, because it wasn't really the show. It was this odd little one-off. So I was worried. The ratings weren't that great for that one. And I was worried about its legs, if you will. And then in February, with the new cast, it came back and did great and has been going ever since.
And why do you think it's so successful?
Well, I think in a lot of ways it's analogous to the video show or anything else, where it's entertainment. It's a great, and all those things that appeal to me, the variety show aspect and the reality show and the sense of humor and the sexiness of it and the athleticism of it and seeing people that you may be a fan of in an environment that they are totally uncomfortable in and learning something, and they're doing it. It's unfolding right in front of you live week to week. All of those things, I think, have contributed to it being very successful.
How would you describe your hosting style?
I'd go back to what I was saying earlier about I'm in it and I'm watching it at the same time. I'm almost your proxy as a viewer. So one of the nicest compliments I get from people is, I was thinking that, and then it came out of your mouth. The moment so-and-so did this, and you said that, and I was thinking, I almost got there as fast as you. And that's what I think my role is. And happily, I work with people who have trusted my instincts enough so that even when I'm making fun of the trophy or the spray tanning, or one time I ad-libbed as all the stars were coming down, welcome to the world of costume remnants or fabric remnants. And, it's all done with affection. And I think that's one of the elements that distinguishes probably my hosting, is that I'm in on the joke. I get it. I know that there are very kitschy elements to this. I will find ways to, like when Pamela Anderson at the end of our All-Star season, all the stars come back, and she did a little dance almost like a striptease, and it came to me and Brooke, and I ad-libbed. I said, usually to see something like that, there's a 2-drink minimum. But I'm not saying it as somebody who's dissing the show. I'm saying it as somebody who I think loves to come to work every week and loves these people. And, it's teasing in the way that good friends and family can tease each other.
What's the biggest challenge of doing a live show 2 nights a week?
Making sure your energy peaks at the right time. Seriously, I mean, I'm very methodical with my day. When I get up, getting to the gym before I go to the studio, how I play out the time from the 10 o'clock script meeting that we all have in my dressing room to the 1 o'clock dress rehearsal, how I play that dress rehearsal for tone and energy. Early in the run of any season, my main goal is to break up the band and the guys on camera and the new celebrities, because they're nervous. And those dress rehearsals are an R-rated, sometimes NC-17 rated version of the live show. So much so that when we'll have a Make-A-Wish kid or something come with their family, they always go, Tom, no, not this week. It's got to be family friendly, the dress rehearsal. But it's all designed to break up. Because really, if you can break up the crew and the band, you're golden. And I'll test, if stuff will come to me, and I'll use it in the live show if I get a laugh from them, because they've seen everything.
Have you, over the course of the season, have you learned all the dances and the steps?
No.
Do you know?
No, it's really pathetic. I mean, I think if I were to dance again on the show, I'd be much better than I was. I can be taught, and I would defer completely to anyone. Cheryl and I had talked at one point of doing a Latin dance, since I had done a ballroom dance, Cheryl Burke. And I would be a good student. And I think now I've absorbed enough about what is good form and posture, and I have a fairly good sense of rhythm and timing just from comedy and such. But no, I couldn't tell you specifically which one's the Latin one, which one's the ball. It's sad actually how little I've picked up.
Is there anything that you can't, besides the obvious network limitations, is there anything you can't say? Is there anything that's taboo, boundaries that are set for you?
Yeah, usually if I don't like a person, I can't call them a cocksucker on the air. That's in stone, pretty much. Even if I use it in a sentence, it's still... No, there's really, again, I play to the format. I really do. I mean, I'll say things on Dancing with the Stars that I wouldn't say on America's Funniest Videos because there are more kids. When Carrie Ananaba came on America's Funniest Videos, because I had made this whole thing about my worlds are colliding, when she fell over and it was like a good pratfall, I said to one of the producers, I said, are we going to, because we replayed that clip, I said, are we going as far as me saying, when you said, let the baby making begin, I didn't know you'd get into position. And they said, well, yeah, it's been on the air. Why? And I was the one who was being conservative. I said, well, but the kids are watching now. And, what does that mean, Mom? I thought it was prayer and storks. So, what was the question? I forgot the question.
I don't know.
I don't know. We've been at this so long now.
Have you ever been so caught off guard by a dance, good or bad, that you sort of lost your place, didn't know what to
No,
say?
not by a dance. By almost caught off guard when Marie Osmond passed out,
Yeah.
and more recently when Kirstie Alley planted a long, cold, wet one on my lips. My wife finally, a couple days later, said, "I have to be honest. I think that kind of bothered me a little bit. Did that bother you?" And I said, "No, it was good television." She said, "I thought you'd say that."
How do you juggle your responsibilities on Dancing with the Stars and America's Funniest Videos?
They really do that for me. The dancing show, being live, has a fairly obviously a set production schedule, and then videos will work around that. Because we're taped on videos, we can be a bit more wiggly with that. Our production season in the past has been from late August until sometime in April, sometimes as late as early May. But they also have to wait to get submissions, and so we'll do, like tomorrow we're doing one show, a $100,000 show. In a few weeks I'll come back and we'll do two shows. So it's not that, I like to create this image that next to Ryan Seacrest, I'm the hardest working guy in the business of hosting, but they make it very workable.
So what is your typical production week on Dancing with the Stars?
Monday and Tuesday, the long days, the show days. Friday, I'm in for script and production meetings. Sundays, I go in to record voiceovers and whatever other production meetings. So it's two full days and 2 half days.
And how much prep do you do for each episode?
None. Seriously, I don't do any prep. I'll go over the script. I mean, the script is like me saying, coming up, so-and-so is going to dance, blah, blah, blah. This happened last week. And they take shots for the going to commercials and coming back, the template of the show, if you will. But no, I don't. That would be a disaster. Yeah. And even with videos, they'll send me the script, because videos is a much more scripted show. And I'll tweak it if I think, okay, this would be funnier if I said this instead of that. But like I did a little tweak job on the script we'll shoot tomorrow, but I changed maybe 5 things. That's about it.
Are you aware each week what the celebrities have gone through during the course of their rehearsals?
A bit, not fully, but to the extent that I'll have seen those training packages that you watch on the show. They'll send me those ahead of time, so I can watch them. Or sometimes even the day of the show, I'll watch them and just have a sense of whether there's been any bloodshed.
Broken bones.
Yeah.
Describe what it's like on the live set.
One of the reasons I love live TV, and it keys into everything that I talked about when we first started talking with Tony Montanaro teaching me at that theater company in South Paris, Maine, the skills about being present. That's the reason I've meditated for years, the importance of being where you are in the moment, that you are there. I honestly walk out, and I will meditate before the show. That's about the only prep I do before a Dancing with the Stars show, and the staff knows now. If you knock on Tom's door and he doesn't answer, and I actually had a lock put on it because people were walking in who had key access, I'll be meditating because I want to walk onto that stage and know anything could happen. And I love that. That's not a pressure. That's a gift, and I look for it. I want to feel I want to be aware of everything, listening to everything, and that's the real jazz of it. That's what I love.
Is it ridiculously loud?
Yeah, well, it is. And friends who come to the show say, we can't hear you. We're sitting just behind you, and there's so much going on. And the poor audience, they make them clap about, it's like, sometimes I quiet I'll say to whoever's doing the warm-up, just, chill, because I want them to hear this. I might get an idea. And we have a wonderful stage manager, Rob Sellers, who I can say to him, quiet it down. And he'll convey that to whoever's doing the warm-up at that time so that they can hear it, because I want their reaction. But a lot of time I don't. I don't care. A lot of time it's you. I'm going for your reaction at home, and it's it's almost an aside that way. It's almost a secret we have, that I'm talking to you, I'm not talking to them. They'll see it later.
Do you have an earpiece? Is that how you're
Yeah, I
cued?
do have an IFB. I don't for the video show. I never did for breakfast time. I did when I did the morning news shows like Good Morning America or the early show, and it does help on this show to have an IFB. Typically, I would kind of bristle at it, but it is helpful on this one. Just so, if for example, if somebody's popped out of their costume and I don't know if I don't see it, because during the dance I'll often I just go up to this row and where I'm watching on a monitor, but sometimes I get talking to my friends and I kind of lose focus a bit, and they'll go so and so. Who Nancy Grace, breast alert, breast alert. So I actually had to lift her dress up, and she denied vehemently that it happened. And I said, well,
But it did.
yeah, well, Nancy.
How's the show shot? Are the cameras choreographed along
Everywhere.
with the dance?
There are so many cameras there, and we have very gifted camera people, some of whom go out there, with the Steadicam and become dancers themselves. But they got cameras everywhere, overhead, in the midst of, coming at you from all angles, and it's an amazing production. I mean, the quality of the production has gotten more impressive every year. The Paula Abdul did a number in a results show this past season where she did like all of her big hits all kind of together with animation and screens, and it was amazing. It was amazing. They do the Oscars and the Grammys every week on Dancing with the Stars.
Talk about working with your executive producer, Conrad Green.
Love Conrad Green. I have, I don't know why, an affinity for and an ease with Brits. I love the sense of humor of everyone from Monty Python to Ricky Gervais to Steve Coogan to you just go down the list. So to be able to work with a bunch of Brits has been, I'm like a kid in a candy store. And Conrad's great. Conrad is just one of the sweetest guys I've met in the business, but also on top of everything, and has a real clear sense of the show and what works and what doesn't, and happily trusts me to go out there and play it by ear.
And tell us about working with the director, Alex Rosinski.
Well, I almost said it before, I'll say it now. One of the major crimes to me is that he hasn't been nominated for an Emmy for directing, because he's, let alone, he should have a mantle full of them. I mean, he's brilliant. The idea of trying to corral that show every week and make it so seamless that people sometimes don't believe it's live. How many times if you've watched the show, I'm always saying, live, we're live, it's live, it's the thing. And I'll have people say, so who won? I said, well, it's going on now. Yeah, but I know, but you tape it ahead of time, right? I go, no, it's live. I said, but it's so seamless. But that's Alex, that's his ability to take what should be a massive mess and turn it into a brilliantly produced, seamless live television event.
Talk about the set and what role that plays and how it's evolved.
Well, it's gotten the basic look of it is the same. It's gotten bigger. I go back and forth about how much I like how big it's gotten. I miss it, and they made a correction. We had a big set, and then the stage was raised, so you didn't have the audience on the same level. And for the season after that, they brought the stage down and brought the audience back in. So it's like the original set on steroids. I worry sometimes that we've sacrificed a little intimacy, but I think they've fixed that. And heaven knows I'll be going back as we tape this in January. I'll be going back in about a month and a half for the new season, and they might have made more revisions to it. James Yarnell is exceedingly gifted at creating these environments, and he and I have worked together since Hollywood Squares. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are more surprises in store.
How instrumental, pardon the pun, is the band in the show?
Having a live band it just creates such a different vibe. And these guys are state of the art. They really are. And it just it's sort of like when you ask me what would it be like if the show wasn't live. It would be a whole different show. If we were playing to tracks, they were dancing to tracks, it would just suck the life out of it. Now, having Harold and his band there and those incredible singers, you can just feel the energy in the room. They're a big part of its success.
How have the production values changed during the course of
More
the
complicated,
seasons?
more ambitious, more bigger. They more inventive with technically what they can pull off. It's amazing to me. We have such gifted pros on the show, wonderfully imaginative choreographers who come up with these ideas that then Alex and the team are able to execute for them. And to an extent that I don't think anybody thought possible going back to the second season.
What do you do during commercials?
I'm usually shooting heroin. I just thought you were getting a little too complacent. I needed to shake you up a little bit. Now, you're paying attention now, aren't you? See, here. Now you're paying attention, aren't you, boys and girls? Yes, because I don't really shoot heroin in the neighborhood. No, I don't. Now we're back. I just, we'll just make sure we're all on the same page. And are we on time? Are we running late? Or, do I need to pick it up? Do I need to move the judges along a little quicker? You're still laughing about the heroin joke, right? I'm killing with Nancy over here. You can't see her, but yeah, it's all just making sure we're all on the same page.
Talk a little bit about your co-hosts that you've had through the seasons.
Yeah, well, started with Lisa Canning, and she was with me in the first season through the one shot, the dance off, and sweet gal and gorgeous, and she could answer this better than me, but we haven't even done the Emmys yet. We're not doing that this time. The 2008 Emmy. We don't have to.
Get there.
Oh, I thought I dodged a bullet there, and then I had to bring it up. Son of a bitch. But I think Lisa probably wasn't as comfortable on live television. Then Samantha Harris was with me for a number of seasons and went on to do more with Entertainment Tonight and Access, or The Insider. I think those two shows are linked together. So she went off to do more with them, and more recently, as we tape this, had done a reality show with NBC and Wesley Clark, who I had actually campaigned for president years ago in New Hampshire. So she's doing that now and is now a mom of two kids and is a sweetheart. But Brooke has been such a joy. Brooke Burke, who is an absolute team player, sweetheart, easy to work with, and that's been a real pleasure, and won the competition too. So that brings that element to it. Someone who's been through the rigors of actually competing and though that doesn't come up certainly as much as it did when she first took over that role, it informs, I think, her empathy level and her understanding of what the stars are going through in what is, I think, for Lisa and Samantha and Brooke, the most thankless job on the show. That I would not want that. I would not trade places. Trade places with Peter Marshall on Hollywood Squares. Would not trade places with them, because they get the stars, the couples, when they are at their most distracted, and they've got to vamp for time. They've got to, the scores are being tallied and everything's being set up, and it's difficult to interview them and get their focus when either they're too hyped up about just finishing the dance, either euphoric that it went well, annoyed that the judges thought it went badly, and they have to kind of jolly it along until everything's ready to present the scores, and have each had their own way of doing it. But boy, it's hard. That's the hard job on the show, You know, I get to be class clown up front, but that's the hard job, and she does it exceedingly well.
Do you interact with them during the course of the week, or is it mainly just during the show that you're...
Well, and on show days, because we'll start the day, all of us in my dressing room, sucking back Starbucks and going over the script, and when Brooke recently went through her bout with thyroid cancer, I had some experience with that in my family, so I put her in touch with some people in Boston, and she. She said to me at one point, she said, the doctor you referred me to I was talking with him more than my guy out here. So, we become, in the course of doing a show like this, I bring that up only to point out that we're friends. We're more than just the people who are, gussied up for you in the 2 hours or 1 hour that you watch the show. We become, I don't like to use the hackneyed term family, because I think your family is your family, but we certainly become a close team on a very personal level.
And the other part of your team is the judges.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about
one of the things that I love about the show, and I hope continues, is that we've kept the same judges, which a lot of shows haven't, and it's such a wonderful mix of personalities. I mean, Len is sort of the crusty stickler, and Bruno. I said to Bruno on the air once, I said, "You're about 2 emotions shy of living at Pixar," and he's gotten more and more animated over the years, but brings a wonderful, boisterous energy. If the censors have to worry about anybody on the show, it's him. And then Carrie Ann is like the girl next door in the neighborhood you wish you lived in, So I think they make a great trio, and I love playing off them.
Do you think have any of them ever gone too far with a critique?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes. I mean, look, I don't look at the dances the same way they do. They know technically what they're looking for. I just look at it probably like most of the viewers do. Did it move me emotionally? Was I impressed with the effort and the execution? And sometimes there have been occasions where I thought it may be in the enthusiasm of the moment they might have gotten a little too personal and crossed a boundary. And usually I'm very protective of the couple, so I will, whether through humor or snark or whatever, I'll let you know if I think that.
Let's stop there and change tape again.
More tapes.